Oh man, this ruling that we've got coming out right now is a breaking ruling. It involves freedom, it involves the 2A. There's a little bit of GOA spicy. We've got a little bit of Sour Patch Kid going on with this. There's registries being accused, there's lists being required of gun owners. Guys, this one is going to be a thing. Every single one of you need to follow this one because this applies well beyond the gun world, and I intend to weave all of that together right now. Of course, if you guys are down with that fight and you want to leave the country better than you found it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. This is the midday snack right before the live tonight, so let's jump right in really quickly. At Braden LOA is where you can find it, but this is breaking. This is a ruling that was dropped in a case called Reese versus ATF. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a primer for everybody who is not involved in the gun world because this is a little bit more in the nuance, but I want you to think about something as we do this. Think about not being able to vote 18, 19, and 20 years old. Okay? A constitutional right, a protected right, but not being able to do it for the reason of safety. Okay? This is one of the things that we have to do in the entire freedom space, whether you're a conservative who cares about abortion, gun rights, freedom of speech, immigration, whatever it is. We have to start tying these things together because they use the exact same tactics against all of us everywhere you look. And the sooner we realize it and call it out for what it is, the sooner we continue to win. That's why this ruling, which is coming out of the gun world, is something we've been following for a long time. It directly applies to everyone. So if you're one of the new 100,000 people who have joined our audience in the last month, you're talking about something where you could not vote 18, 19, and 20, or you can't buy a gun 18, 19, and 20. It's the same thing. Now that I've set that up and I've drawn the correlations, let me show you what it actually states in a little assessment, and then I'll show you what's happening. Because we've got accusations of registries being forced by the Attorney General and the DOJ. We've got a full-on list revelation from FPC and all these gun rights groups directly to the ATF and the DOJ. There's a lot of feels. All right. Reese versus ATF was a significant Second Amendment case in which the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals declared the federal ban on handgun sales by licensed dealers to adults aged 18 to 20 unconstitutional. Now, a lot of you who may not be in the gun world are saying, well, why does that matter? The reason that matters, and it's so important, is because once you are the age of majority, 18, 19, and 20, you can vote. You can be drafted, you can sign up for the military, you can sign a mortgage, you can get married, you can do all the adulting things. You can enter into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to be brainwashed by liberal universities if you want to. But that's the entire point. All of this is an adult decision. The states, in the blue states, always, or not always, have tended to go towards the idea of delaying the rights to buy a gun, equating it to voting, okay? That's the story here. Now, what's going on, and sorry that I had to have a little bit of a primer, a judge today just decided to say that 18, 19, and 20-year-old bans are unconstitutional. Well, thanks. Thanks for joining the party. And so what he did after that is kind of like a little bit of a gotcha, was he said, and all the groups who are lodging the complaints and the lawsuits, such as FPC, which is Firearms Policy Coalition, and Second Amendment Foundation, they have to reveal their list to the DOJ and the ATF of all of their donors, owners, and members in order to make sure that they are complying with the order. Now, the reason this is a little bit of a gotcha, other than the fact that you're having to reveal a list of your members and donors to a executive bureaucracy, which isn't going to fly in the long run. The other thing here is they retroactively applied this ruling to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds at the time of the original lawsuit, which was in the 2020 timeframe. No one is any longer 18, 19, and 20 because the time span has elapsed. So once again, you're getting into this point where it doesn't matter. So you get that's why this is the Sour Patch Kid of a ruling. You get a little bit of sweet on the 18, 19, 20-year-old bans are unconstitutional. That is sweet because it's accurate. Then you get a little bit of the salty, which says it doesn't matter and apply to anybody because they've all aged out of it anyway, which I'm going to come back to in a second. And then you get the other ultimate sour where you pop like 4 warheads at one time, where it says you have to give all your list and donor stuff to the federal government, which, newsflash, that ain't going to happen. Trust me, that's not going to happen. I've got the entire statement right here. But when you look at all of these things, there's multiple reactions, which we're going to walk through right now. So, for example, as you can see here, GOA is not having it. And I'm going to tell you, I agree with GOA in some of this, and I disagree in others. Watch. AG Pam Bondi has convinced a federal judge to order Second Amendment Foundation to turn over a list of its members. The Justice Department must end this tyranny now and stop fighting 2A victories in court immediately. Now, what they're referencing, of course, is this right here. Defendants' proposed judgment appropriately limits its scope to members of the organizational plaintiffs who have been identified and verified to defendants during this litigation. Any injunction that does not include this limitation would be impermissibly vague. Basically, all that means, if you're not familiar with this, it's going to the members who actually had the complaint. Okay? That's it. It doesn't go nationwide. It goes to the members. And this is the part that GOA has a bit of a rock up their pants about. Within 21 days of issuance of this judgment, those plaintiffs identified, so that's Firearms Policy Coalition and Second Amendment Foundation, at paragraph 2B shall provide the defendants, DOJ and ATF, a verified list of their members as of November 6th, 2020. That is not likely to happen. Just because I know the players involved, and they are most likely going to be like pound rocks, pound sand. You can read between the lines, as I like to say. Now, this is the part where GOA and I differ slightly. AG Pam Bondi is creating a registry of gun owners. Here's where I disagree a little bit, and I think this is an important distinction to say because honestly, it's just my opinion. There is no assignment of a registry to the DOJ and the ATF in this case because there's no list of guns that Second Amendment Foundation or Firearms Policy Coalition have of the individuals who are members. Now, is it bad that they asked them to do this? Yes. Is it a registry of firearms? No, because there's no direct tie to firearms. Now, a registry of gun owners, you could make the argument that that data is already in the 4473s. So this is not something that does not already exist. In fact, the usage of registry, I tend to use that word when they actually do registry of firearms and who has the firearms, not people who have donated to FPC or Second Amendment Foundation, because there's no idea that anyone has a gun or doesn't have a gun. Again, I am not okay with this. This is not going to go stand, and it's not going to work. I'm going to show you the document in a second. But this is not a registry of gun owners, in my opinion. It is not good, but it's also not a registry, right? That's my own take on this, because when they go for registries, I'm going to be the first one to scream, you can't have a registry, it's constitutionally illegal. But when they don't have registries, I'm not going to call it a registry simply because it basically waters down the accusation. That's my own take on that. But now, let me show you the actual statement from the from Firearms Policy Coalition. Whoops. This is an important one. Today's judgment in Reese versus ATF, the same case we're talking about, issued by Federal District Court Judge Robert Summerhays, is legally baseless and morally bankrupt. Rather than uphold the Constitution and binding Supreme Court precedent, the court regurgitated the Trump administration's self-serving demand to wipe away the Fifth Circuit's ruling against the government's unconstitutional ban and continued denying millions of peaceable adults their right to keep and bear arms, talking about the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Now, they're right there. The 18, 19, and 20-year-old bans are unconstitutional as the day is long. This guy did a watered-down ruling, which is what they're talking about. It's stupid, devoid of morals, and morally bankrupt is what they're saying. Okay? To be clear, FPC has never provided a list of its members to the government and never will. Our legal team is already taking action to urgently address this appalling order. We will commence appellate proceedings as necessary to protect our members and effectuate the Fifth Circuit's decision in our favor. Furthering updates will be provided as the case proceeds. That's the entire thing. It's going to go back to the next level of the court system. They're going to file an emergency injunction request. That's not something that they've told me. I'm just assuming based off what that just said. And they're going to say, well, you're not getting our list. It doesn't matter what you do. Hold us in contempt of court, and that's probably what's going to happen, and they're not going to get it. That's more than likely what's going to happen in here. But if you zoom out on this, and you're going back out of the weeds into the broad base for the general population where we're trying to weave everything together, imagine being part of the ACLU or being part of Turning Point USA, and all of a sudden the federal government has a list of you being on there because a judge decided that you had to have a list for donating to a political action committee. That does not stand in any way, shape, or form. Is it a registry of people? No, it's not a registry. Is it a list that they're requesting? Yes, and that's horrible and bad. But again, this is a very important piece to this. I think that at the end of the day, you're going to have 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that are not going to have these rights because they aged out of them. and it doesn't apply to anyone else nationally, which is basically a way to insulate the judge, then they ask for the file for the actual documentation, which they're not going to give it to them anyway. And at the end of the day, it's a baby step in the right direction because it sets you up in a circuit split disagreement, which ultimately will go to the Supreme Court at some point in time, just like we have now seen multiple cases being picked up. But that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Am I over the target? Did I land that plane? And I will see you on the next one, most likely tonight at the live stream. Lots to talk about. See you then.